Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Gear Chronicle Lost Legend standard deck profile for Post, the Astral Force. Still working on the Chrono Fang, Chrono Tiger deck, but in the meantime, I borrowed my good friend Donnie's Gear Chronicle deck for an update to the Lost Legend deck, which, of those of you that don't know, was the first Gear Chronicle support we received in standard format, following the suit that all the Gear Chronicle decks to come will follow for the style of the decks that they are, in which you will, discard costs basically like Stride for premium format, and then place a grade 4 unit from the deck on top of the grade 3 unit that you call out onto the field. With the Lost Legend deck, we use the Mystery Flare Dragon along with some of the new support from the new booster pack to overall power up the deck, and just with the different results we have with it as well. It's a really, really awesome deck. Once again, thanks to him for letting me borrow his deck. Gear Chronicle is actually one of his favorites. He even went all out with the deck they let me borrow, having the Lost Legend sleeves to go with it as well. I don't normally use anime sleeves myself with my deck profile, so definitely very, very interesting for sure. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So, start off with the grade 4 units. For the deck, he's running 4 Interdimensional Dragon Mystery Flare Dragon. With this one, when placed, activate all the effects below according to the sum of grades face up in your bind zone, which is the main focus of the Lost Legend deck, which is Interdimensional Dragonite Lost Legend, focusing on all the different bind cards you have to gain different abilities with it. So you'll get the effects below. With 3 or more, this unit gets drive +1 until end of turn. 7 or more, this unit gets an additional critical until end of turn. 13 or more, choose 6 of your units. They get plus 10,000 until end of turn. And then 19 or more at the end of this turn. Discard all cards from your hand. And if you do, you get an additional turn. You cannot ride during that turn. But you do have the overall power that this deck brings when you hit the 19 or more mark, hopefully being able to finish your opponent as well with the units you call out with the deck. So just the overall power that you can do with Mystery Flare Dragon being your go-to card and running 4 of it in the deck, so you have full power against your opponent and all the different attacks you can pressure on against them, going with triple drive, the critical, and all the plus power you give to 6 of your units as well. For the additional backup, we did have another grade 4 released at the same time as Mystery Flare, but I decided to test out the Novelle around Dragon just as a better setup card, I'd say, in the deck. On Vanguard, when placed, counter +1, discard 2 cards from your hand, looked at 3 cards from the top of your deck, and called them to rear. So not only does it set up your drop zone for more of your bind power you can do, it just gives you the option for more rear guards on the field as well, using this new card in the deck for that option. I like to also run the additional grade 4s just so we have more cards to bind easily with Lost Legend and all the other cards we run in the deck, just because having those grade 4s means that we can reach the 19 some or more count as well for Mystery Flare Dragon in the deck for the overall play, and have all those options also. I considered he was running the Valkyrion play as well in the deck, which is a thought if you wanted to put in Valkyrion instead of Novelle around Dragon for the spot. Just being a grade 5 you can bind, and being a Cray Elemental can be used in all the decks. You can't ride it or open the Astral Plane, but still an option to go to. But if you want to stick with just the Gear Chronicle support, you can run 2 of this new Novelle around Dragon from the latest set in the pack, just for the easy rearguard consistency that you can stride into this first, set up your rearguards, and then have the rearguards to power up with your Interdimensional Dragon Mystery Flare Dragon. And that's it for the grade 4s. We'll now move on to the grade 3s. Our main go-to grade 3 is Interdimensional Dragon Knight Lost Legend. On Vanguard, discard a card with the sum of their grades being 3 or greater from your hand. Search your deck for 1 grade 4 card. Ride it as stand. Shuffle your deck. And at the end of this turn, retire that unit and ride a grade 3 from your soul as rest. So when you ride Lost Legend, you'll get the Imaginary Gift Force, but also when you ride it at the end of the turn as rest, you'll get the additional Imaginary Gift Force. So even though the grade 4s don't have the Imaginary Gift Force, you'll get your second force marker using Lost Legend, and every time you use Lost Legend, so you don't have to repeatedly ride Lost Legends, you can just keep them in your hand to use for the stride costs of this card. And when rode upon, you can counter Counterblast 2 to draw a card, which you don't really use the Counterblast for much else in the deck aside from the Novella round, which is only a Counterblast of 1 anyway. So as long as you keep the draw power consistent, you can either go for that power or the rearguard call with Novella round, depending on which play you wanted to go for in the deck. I used to just have it as your only grade 3 to go for in the deck, but as of late, I'm also running 2 of the new Re-Innovate Wing Dragon with this one. On Vanguard or Rear, once per turn, Soul Blast 1 and bind 2 rear guards. Look at 3 cards from the top of your deck, call 2 cards from among them to rear, and bind 1 card from among them. So with these cards, it's just more basic setup for your bind zone using this card. Since this isn't actually like Stride, you don't have to use Lost Legends ability right at the beginning of the turn. You can basically set it up with your Re-Innovate Wing Dragon first, and then go for the place of your grade 4, having plenty of other cards bind with this card, and additional rear guards also for the bind with this one, and then getting the additional calls off of your rear guards and the additional binding of the one from among them also just goes for more and more power with this card. It does have the Imaginary Gift Force if you do end up riding it, but most of the time I want to call this card to rear guard, or even just have it be an additional card discard for a Lost Legend if you already have your setup in the bind zone to go for. And that is it for the grade 3s. We have to mix and match a lot of the numbers since we're counting for the grade 4 spot in the deck as well. But for the grade 2 count, I'm still running 4 of the Lost Break Dragon, going off of the support we have for Lost Legend, which helps to focus on the binding of cards. When placed on Vanguard or Rear from hand, bind a card from your hand and draw a card. So you just have to remember also with Re-Innovate Dragon that you won't get the bind with this card, but you'll still have more options, to bind this card from your field afterwards to get some other, units on the field that are better off for that. So also during your turn, if you bind zone has a face-up card, this unit gets plus 3,000. So just being able to have that set up for the power as well is a big plus for sure. But making use of Lost Break Dragon after you use its effect means that you can then, like I said, bind it with Re-Innovate, putting more and more grade sums in your bind zone to use, and then get new units on the field also. And I also run 3 Steam Mechanic Naboo. On rearguard, when it attacks a Vanguard, bind a card from your drop zone. Your opponent cannot call grade 1 or greater cards from his or her hand until the end of that battle. At the end of the battle, put this unit into your soul and draw a card. So it builds up soul for some of your other abilities to use, but also being able to bind cards from your drop zone. You can put grade 4s into your bind zone very easily after you've used the Stride like effect of Lost Legend to place the grade 4 from your deck, and then after it gets retired, you have this card to rely on to set up more and more cards in your bind zone to use. So very useful for sure. And also, we go for the same premise of effects with Steam Hunter Lippet. On rearguard, when placed from hand, bind a card from your drop zone, and it gets plus 3,000 to end of turn. So, just once again, with this, it's just the put a card from your drop zone, and it gets plus 3,000. But after you use this effect, you can easily just have it be one of the cards you bind with Re-Innovate Wing Dragon on the field for the additional setup of more rear guards on the field to use. But once again, just 3 of this card, where our grade 2 count is lowered for the fact that we had more grade 4s in the deck to use. For our grade 1 count, we solely focused on more of the setup for the Lost Legend deck. With that, running 4 Wedge Move Dragon. This is, like I said, my buddy Donnie always goes all out with his Gear Chronicle, so he's got 4 of the prize grade 1 Wedge Move Dragons. When its attack hits, bind a card from your hand and draw a card. It's the Vanguard effect, just being able to bind easily early game and then get more draw power. And from the hand, when this card be discarded, it may be discarded as a grade 3. So it's kind of like the Stride fodder for Lost Legend in standard format. Just being able to discard this card and then have it count for the whole one gives you that additional grade 3 count, so you don't have to run too many grade 3s in the deck as a whole. You can just focus on using this card all together. And I also run 4 Quickie Worker. With this one, when placed from the hand, put up to 1 card from your drop zone on the bottom of your deck. If you put a grade 3 or greater card, Soul Blast 2 and draw a card. So more recycle power with cards from your drop zone if there are some other cards you want better placed in the deck to use. Quickie Worker helps just taking up some more of the Soul Blast, which you can easily build up with the deck as well, with cards like Naboo. And then Re-Innovate Dragon also only takes up 1 Soul Blast, so remember that also. And lastly, for the grade 1s, the 3 Steam Fighter Mimine. With this one, once per turn on rear, when your Vanguard is placed, draw a card and discard a card from your hand. If you discard a grade 3 or greater card, 3 of your units get plus 5,000 to end of turn. So there's the additional plus power with this one. Also, just works very, very well for the overall play for the discard and reset up of your Reinnovate wing, working together on the rear to set up new grade 1s and 2s or even grade 3s on your rear guard to work with before you go into the stride of Lost Legend as well. And then for the trigger lineup and the grade 0s for our starters, still sticking to the Primordial Draco Kid since it was released with Lost Legend. I feel like Chronodron and Chrono Tiger are basically the starters for their respectable decks as well. So using this one, very fitting for the Lost Legend deck also. And for the trigger lineup, going with the 4 Steam Bomber Degui and the 4 Ring Worker for the 8 critical we run in total with the deck. And for the draw trigger, it's also our Sentinel in the deck for Steam Guard Castilla, just being the draw trigger to go off of for this. It's also going to be reprinted soon, I believe, in the Chronojet trial deck, so much easier for people to get access to this draw also. And for Steam Dr. Martash as the heal trigger, I know we're getting another heal trigger for Gear Chronicle, but once again, going off of the Primordial Draco Kit as well, just more fitting for the deck since it was the original card for the deck also. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Once again, big thanks to my buddy Donnie for letting me borrow his Gear Chronicle deck for the deck profile. But until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Qualia out.